The thing that's really astonishing to me, my whole life was characterized by good luck. One thing that drew Inez and me together is compassion for children. We had grown up in homes characterized by financial hardship. That was a bond between us. She grew up on a cotton farm in Alabama, where when she was a very small child, her mother died, and they had 7 children in her family. They moved from one farm to another each year, so by the time she finished high school, she was 20 years old, and she had a bequest from her then deceased mother of $300. That was her legacy. And she took her $300 and she went to the closest city, Chattanooga, and she got a job there working in a home, which was the home of a middle-class family, cleaning everything, including toilets, which she hated. So she enrolled at a business school and she learned typing and shorthand. Well, we met in the workforce, in the workplace, and our relationship in the Tennessee days was working. We worked long hours and very regularly during the war, and she had 6 or 7 years of experience. She had better judgment about how to administer the things in that office than I had. And then the war ended and I went to Detroit, and then she wrote me a letter and she said that her sister, who lived in Chattanooga too, had married an American soldier who was stationed there during the war and had moved to his home in Cleveland. And she said, Cleveland isn't far from Detroit, so I'm going to visit her and I think I'll come to visit you. So she came to Detroit, and then what had been really a working relationship evolved into a romance, and a year or so later we were married. That was 67 years ago. And we had a splendid marriage. It's easier to see that now than it was in the hour-to-hour, day-to-day hurly-burly of the very active lives that we both had. She was a marvelously good wife, good mother, pressing our children to be diligent and get educated. See, there are 2 pictures of her. There's one, and this one. There's an honorary degree she got from Muhlenberg College. She was a vigorous fundraiser for Muhlenberg College. Whenever there was some activity going on, she got involved. The Allentown Public Library wouldn't exist if it hadn't been for Inez Donley. She worked very early at what was originally called Wiley House, and Kids Peace now has hospitals in 16 states. She was involved in that for probably 25 or 30 years. And when she went there, it had an annual volume of business about $1 million. And by the time she retired, it was $160 million.
Where'd you get that clock?
Well, we bought it about, I think, 1950. So I think we had it for about 50 or 60 years. Inez was involved in politics, too. She became involved in that quite early. Tom, our son, He says, Mom was a real Republican. Dad was a rhino, R-I-N-O, Republican in name only. So I voted for John F. Kennedy. I guess if your name is Irish, you're really supposed to anyway. It's hard for even our children who know about the history of their parents to understand the desperate poverty that we had in our childhood. When I was a boy in a log cabin which had been built by my great-grandfather when he came from Ireland in the 1840s. There was no water, there was no electricity. I mean, we were really poor, and Inez had a similar, desperately impoverished childhood. So that was, I think, something that brought us together. We reached the point where we had enough money to offer our children and grandchildren that as long as they continued their education endeavors, we would continue to pay the costs and tuition and so forth for that purpose. And what we found out is if you make an offer like that to your grandchildren, they go to college, then they go to graduate school, and then they go to graduate school, and then they keep on getting educated forever. I'd like our children and our grandchildren, and assuming we'll have great-great-grandchildren sometime in the future, I'd like them to think that Inez and I were good people, honest people, believed in hard work, believed in diligent effort, believed in the communities in which we lived, believed it was worthwhile to spend a good part of your life doing good things for other people. We've been very fortunate in consciously or unconsciously transmitting to our children a sense of values which are being in turn transmitted by them to their children. Well, I remember many, many things about Martha. I remember the time when she was born, a premature baby whose life was in question for the first week of her life. And my heart was in tremor with fear about her survival. That I remember about Martha. Your qualities matched your mother's qualities in many ways. And for that I am very grateful and will always be grateful as long as I live. Tom, remember those movies we took from time to time on the beach at Atlantic City or someplace? You never stood still. You just jumped up and down, jumped up and down. And we've seen the characteristic of rigorous energy, both physical and intellectual, in all of the years of your life. And John, Mom was always proud of you. She remained proud of you until the time, only a few weeks ago now, that she breathed her last breath. She was proud of you. She loved you and your brother and sister equally intensely. It was one of the elements of the good fortune in your life and all of our lives. Your mother was a truly remarkable human being. Don't remember her as she was during the years when she was suffering from this disease. Remember her from all of the prior years when she dedicated herself with unrelenting commitment to each of you, Martha and Tom and John, dedicated herself to your well-being and your education and your success. I feel now, taking a long retrospective view, I have a profound respect and a profound love for Nessie. Think of the innate quality that existed in that woman, a girl who grew up in poverty, picking cotton on a cotton farm in Alabama, not finishing high school till she was 20 years old, never having gone to college. She had internal resources she called upon to make her the kind of human being that she was. And in the rush of living each hour and each day, I didn't think enough of the remarkable qualities and dedication that she brought to our life. So, you see, if you look back on those things in my life, I was lucky, just lucky.